Alrighty, let's go. G'day, guys. Welcome once again to the tripod. Actually, I'm trying something new out today. I've just bought myself a microphone. So if you guys can comment and let me know if you can hear me. I'm testing it out for the first time today. Hopefully it's like slightly better sound, I guess. Like I mentioned last week, anytime that I've been doing this and I have like the microphone or the headphones in and the little microphone here, anytime I fucking talk loudly, it sounds kind of grim. So let me know if you guys can actually fucking hear what I'm saying. Okay, sweet. Thank you, Dan. All right, sweet. Audio is good. Let me know if it's actually better than the regular audio, because that would be great, because I fucking shelled out like $100 for this fucking thing. So I hope that it works okay. Let's get started, guys. G'day. Welcome once again to the tripod, where we break down every single NRL game every week from a betting perspective. This week we'll be doing a round 14 recap. Not the best round, not the worst round. Went 10 wins, 8 losses on our best bets, so a slight winning round. Saves us from going, 2 losing weeks in a row, back-to-back losing weeks, which we haven't done in about a year and a half now. So thank fuck that I actually won slightly this week while Jacob is away. I'll tell you something right now. I do feel fucking sick to my stomach, and it could be one of two things. I'll let you guys decide. One, it could be because I was fucking out and about today and I saw an all-you-can-eat Asian restaurant for $15, and I went in there and it was sushi and it was just terrible Asian food. There was not one white person in the whole restaurant, and I ate myself to almost death. That could be the one thing that's made me sick. And the other thing could be that, like I mentioned last week, I lost a $52,000 multi by one leg. I mentioned this last week, and of course the last leg fucking comes in, which is the Toronto Raptors to win the series 4-2. That leg was paying $9. Of course that comes in. Manly 1-12 last week comes in. Panthers plus 6.5 comes in. Knights 1-12 comes in. And I lose a $52,000 multi off $50 because of a late fucking ice hockey goal, which hardly ever happens. The cunts are up 2-0 and they give up a goal in the last like 3 minutes. That was still when they had their goalie and goals anyway. So I could be sick for either one of those reasons. I'm not quite sure which one it is. But either way, I do feel fucking ill. Let's start off with what we just saw in round 14. Oh shit, I haven't even updated the score here. Anyway, the Roosters beat the Bulldogs 38 points to 12. Kind of, I guess, a score that most people would have expected. The Roosters to absolutely dominate this one. We didn't have one best bet on the game, and I guess the reason was when I did the pod on Wednesday, the line was 13.5. It was a little bit high. As you can see, it's probably handy that I've left this line up there. Line was 13.5 points. There was Teddy in doubt for the Roosters. There was Boyd Cordner in doubt for the Roosters. Obviously, Teddy didn't play, but no Teddy, no worries for the Roosters. They still get the job done by 28 points tonight. And Boyd Cordner has an absolute blinder. But it was a funny one. I guess the line sort of crept down towards 10, and it closed at 10 just before game time. And you could even get 9.5 at $1.80 in some spots. And some people were commenting about 5-10 minutes before the game whether we would take, Roosters minus 9.5. I said that would certainly be the side that I was leaning towards. But unfortunately, we try not to give out best bets, 5 or 10 minutes before the game, because in the app, there's now over 10,000 people in the app. And to get the best bets and the notifications out to everyone sometimes takes about 10 minutes. So some people wouldn't have got on. But very good win by the Roosters. And once again, it's like beware the wounded, very, very good team on 3 losses in a row. You knew that they would step up, and they certainly did so. One thing I will say, the Bulldogs, I've said all along, I fucking hate this Bulldogs team and have done for the last few years. And it's just they have no playmakers. Foran cannot do it all by himself. They just get the ball, and I swear, it's like even if they start the set on the 20, it's one off the ruck, hit up, hit up, hit up. And this is a fucking Bulldogs team that's hitting it up on 4th tackle, which is absolutely diabolical when you're in the opposition 10. They just have no creativity, no playmakers, and they really do struggle to put on points. I guess the big news from this one, if you were listening to the commentary, is that Latrell, they're saying, is going to be dropped for game 2 of Origin. I think that's a big mistake for New South Wales. I will be doing an Origin pod this week, but I think that's a huge mistake for New South Wales. Me and Jacob have said before, as Queensland supporters, we want New South Wales to pick players that scare us. And Latrell is one of the few players in the NRL that fucking scares me as a Queensland supporter. And the rumours are out now that he is not going to be picked for that Blues side. And I think that's a grave error by the Blues selectors there, not picking Latrell in that lineup. I think that he is one of the most dangerous centres in the league. And I would certainly, as a Queensland supporter, prefer to have him out of the team than in the team. That's for sure. One thing I will say before I move on to the next game back on Thursday night, I am going to do an Origin pod solo, obviously. Jacob's gone for 6 weeks, as we know. But I'm flexible with my times, I guess. So let me know in the comments if you'd prefer an Origin pod to be Friday night, like 6 o'clock, or if you'd prefer an Origin pod to be like Saturday morning, like 9 o'clock. I can do either of those times. Let's move on to the Thursday night game. We had the Raiders beating the Sharks 22 points to 20. We had one best bet on the game. It was a late release in the app. And once again, that is another reason to be in the app because this one was released about half an hour before game time. Sharks to score over 16.5 points, and that one won. I said this at the start of the round. I didn't love the round from a betting perspective, and that probably shows because we only went 10 wins, 8 losses. But I did love the round from an entertainment standpoint, and this was an absolutely cracking game. Raiders up 20-0 early. It looked like the Sharks were in very, very big trouble. Sharks come with a late surge, score 20 on the trot, and then get unlucky with a penalty in the last few minutes to lose by 2 points. But look, these are two of the informed sides in the comp. I said in the preseason pod that this Raiders side would be much improved this year, and I was looking to bet on this team throughout the season. They've shown that. They have shown that they are consistently playing at a top 4 level. And this Sharks team, look, they have had some trouble with injuries, etc. But I mentioned this in the pod last week that now they've got pretty much everyone back healthy. Sean Johnson playing again. And that this is going to be a scary, scary team if they can stay healthy through the back end of the season. Both of these teams, in my opinion, are bet-on teams because the Raiders, everyone still kind of remembers them as the shitty team from last year, and the Sharks, a lot of the sharp punters and a lot of, statistics-based punters will bet on season average statistics, and I think the Sharks' season average statistics are a little bit skewed because they have had so many injuries throughout that first half of the season. So both of these teams are bet-on teams for me in the future. But we only had the one best bet on this one, and obviously it was probably warranted, to be honest with you, because the line was 1.5. Raiders were 1.5 point favorites. They end up winning by 2, very, very close to where the line was set. Next up, we had the Warriors beating the Titans 24 points to 20. We had 2 best bets on the game. Unfortunately, I did take Titans because I saw the line dropping. Titans started at about 2-point underdogs, and the line just kept dropping and dropping and dropping. And I said in the pod on Wednesday, I wanted to take the fucking Warriors. I thought that they were the better team. I thought it was a letdown spot for the Titans after beating the Broncos. I thought they would come out a little bit flat, which they did. But my worry was the fucking Warriors had the gastro that was sweeping through the whole team. Blake Green, Isaac Luke, Carl Lawton, all hit with the gastro. Didn't know if they were going to play, so that's why I left the fucking game. Or at least, not left the game, but didn't like Warriors anymore, and I saw the line was dropping. And of course, all of them do play, and Carl Lawton scores the first fucking try. It is always the way, I swear. Titans probably shouldn't have been as close, really. They were down 10 with about 5 minutes left. They score a late try, and then they actually had fucking very good chance to win that game outright with a full set of 6 against 12 men against the Warriors late. Can't see or hear anything. Can anyone else comment? Can you guys hear this? Is this is someone? I see some comments coming in that you can't hear anything or see anything. If someone can please comment if they can hear me, that would be great, because otherwise I might have to adjust some settings or whatnot. Let's move on to the Tigers game. The Tigers beating the Cowboys 27-26. Once again, like I kind of mentioned, it was very, very good week for entertaining games. 2 1-point victories, and once again a very, very tough week for betting. And as we saw with this one, we had a total of we had very, very solid totals here. I thought we had very good plays. And I really just love the under in this one. Tigers struggle on offense, and same exact thing with the Cowboys. But of course, this one we take the unders, and they score fucking 4 tries in the first 30 minutes, and at that point you're toast. So it's very, very tough to come back from that, especially when you're on an under. Ridiculous tries, to be honest. Like, you get a drop bomb for the second try where the Tigers knock on. You don't get a video replay. The on-field ref calls it a try straight up, but it's a clear knock on if you go to video. And then just other fucking bullshit, ridiculous tries. Penalty try late, that kind of stuff. So look, I understand that there were 53 points scored in this game, but what I will say is there were a lot of fucking lucky tries scored in this game. And moving forward, I still do think that both of these teams are under teams, and I will be looking to bet both Tigers and Cowboys totals under in the future, and especially looking at next week, because this was an anomaly. There was 53 points scored. Anyone that bet over on either of these two teams won, but I think it was a phony over, that's for sure. Next up, we had the Storm beating the Knights 34 points to 4. We had 2 best bets on the game. I did really like the Storm in this one, and we cashed both of the bets. Storm were just too good in this one. I understand that a lot of people and a lot of the public were on the Knights, and it's not surprising. The line was 8.5 earlier on in the week, and the line came down to, I think, 6.5 at game time. And it's not surprising. The Knights were on a 6-game win streak. The Storm hadn't been dominant over the last month or two. And everyone that had been betting the Knights for the last 6 weeks had certainly been winning. But just too many errors from the Knights. 58% completion for the game. Too many errors early on. The Storm for the first 20 minutes weren't great. But the Knights let them hang in there for those first 20 minutes. When the Storm weren't playing fantastic, and the Storm just came over the top of them in the end. And what I will say for you guys out there, especially the people that are new to punting, you see a line like this. You see the Knights plus 8 points. It looks fucking tasty. Looks juicy. Looks like it should be way too high. What I do like to think of, you cannot forget to factor in home field advantage. You absolutely cannot forget to do that. And we've written in our power ratings, and we haven't been doing the power ratings for the last few weeks because Jacob's away. But in general, home field is worth about 2.5 points. There are teams which have stronger home field advantages to others. Storm springs to mind. Cowboys springs to mind. Raiders springs to mind. And I would say that the Storm home field is probably worth about 3.5 points. What I like to do, anytime you're making a bet, I think it's very handy to say, okay, the Knights are catching 8 points in this one as underdogs. It looks very, very good. The line looks way too high. Knights aren't 8 points worse than the Storm. What you want to do is you want to flip that line around and say, hang on a second, is this really value? What if the Storm were playing the Knights in Newcastle? The line would be 2 or 2.5 or whatever. And what you want to do is you want to say, okay, if I like the Knights plus 8 then in Melbourne, would I also like the Knights plus 2 in Newcastle? And now that doesn't sound as good anymore. So what I like to do is I kind of try and flip the home field, and if I still like the team at the line, if you flipped home fields, then I'll still take it. But like I said, most amateur punters will look at that. Knights plus 8 looks very good. But if I told you could get Knights plus 2 in Newcastle, that all of a sudden does not seem as good. So you really do have to remember to factor in home field for these games. Moving on to what was my favorite game of the round, we had the Panthers beating the Rabbits 19-18. Another very, very entertaining game, and a lot of people will say, oh, Panthers got a little bit lucky to win that one. I disagree. I think Panthers were a lot better than the Rabbits. I think they dominated for the majority of that game. I think the Rabbits got fairly lucky. They scored 2 tries in 3 minutes, and that made the score a lot closer. And obviously, Panthers got the field goal in the end, but I think Panthers were the better team on the night, and I would argue significantly better. And we've said this at the start of the season. I know we're a little bit down on the Rabbits at the start of the season, but we said, look, when this Rabbits team is fully healthy, they are one of the best teams in the comp. But when they're not, that is when we want to bet against them. And they are not fully healthy. They did not have Adam Reynolds, nor did they have any of the Burgess brothers. George got ruled out just prior to kickoff, which obviously was in our favour. But, this line closed close to 4. And we got 7 early on in the week. So it certainly pays to get those early lines. One thing that was fucking annoying in this game, we had a Saturday multi going on, which had the Storm minus 7.5 points, which obviously easily won. And we had the Panthers minus 1.5 points. And that multi was paying $6. And obviously the Panthers won by 1, of course. But look, a lot of people will kind of say, oh, why didn't you just have the Panthers, straight up to win in that multi? But, I'm always kind of looking at value. And I mean, the Panthers were paying $2.65 to win the game. Minus 1.5 was $3.15. And it's just simply that half point is not worth 50 cents. It's worth a lot less than 50 cents. So, sometimes you just got to take these plays if they're value, and sometimes they pay off and sometimes they don't. But in the long run, if you're taking a team minus 1.5 points at 50 cents more than the straight up price, you are going to win more money in the long run than you're going to lose. Next up, in what was probably one of the more surprising results of the round, we had the Eels beating the Broncos 38 points to 10. We didn't have a best bet on the game. If anything, I was actually leaning the Broncos in this one. But the late money scared me. Late money poured in on the Eels. This game opened Eels minus 1, and it closed pretty much a consensus Eels minus 2.5. And the late money is the correct money, and it was in this case. The Eels fucking flogged them. Broncos, they did not look up for this one. They didn't look up for this one. They looked absolutely lost. You know what I will say? I'm not sure where the Seabolt influence is here. He said at the start of the season, look, what we're going to do is we're going to have fast play the balls and we're going to spread the ball early. Exactly what we did at Souths. I have not seen any of this shit. The Broncos sometimes, when I watch them, they remind me of the Bulldogs. It's one off the ruck, hit ups on fourth tackle, not spreading the ball early. And they have, I guess they don't have kind of probably the talent that Souths have, but, this is the Seabolt influence that he was trying to bring into the team, and I have not seen it at all. If anything, the Eels were the ones fucking spreading the ball early, quick play of the balls. I remember the second try that the Eels scored, Sevo on the left wing, they went all the way from the all the way from the right wing, all the way to the left on one play. Very next play, all the way back to the right wing. Very next play, all the way back to the left wing, and scored in the corner. And that's what, Seabolt was doing with the Rabbitohs, and that's what made him so successful there. And it seems like he just has not brought that to the Broncos. They really look lost. And it's funny, people were kind of saying, the Eels won because they got a fucking rocket put up them by Brad Arthur after the game last week, losing by 20. Why didn't the Broncos fucking respond? They lost to the Titans at home. If anything, that's a far worse loss than the Eels did against the Sharks. The Sharks played magnificent. And they lost by 20 points, sure. But the Sharks were fucking awesome. The Broncos lost to the Titans at home as way bigger favourites. So why is a rocket not going up the fucking deuter of the Broncos, and why didn't they respond? So, these things happen, but the Broncos just look lost, dead set, and I'm not sure if they can recover from this. And to be honest, the last few weeks I've been watching this Broncos side, and pretty much the whole season, they haven't been playing like a top 8 team. And if they continue down this road, they will not be making the top 8. And then the early game we saw today was Manly beating the Dragons 34 points to 14. Look, this one was fucked. I'll tell you what. We had 4 plays on the game. We go 1 and 3. Very, very unlucky, in my opinion, to lose the under 42.5. As you can see on there, we had under 20.5 in the first half. Look, sometimes you make good bets and they fucking lose. I looked at the weather report on Wednesday. I know it's a long way out from the game, but I looked at the weather report. It said it was going to rain. The total was 42.5. It closes 37.5. So we have 5 points of line value there on the total. And of course, they're sitting on 36 points, with 5 minutes left. Try at 5 minutes. and then a bullshit try with 2 minutes left to go takes us over the 42.5. And those ones hurt, but certainly, if you ask me again, am I going to take a bet at $1.90 at 42.5 that closes 5 points less? I'm going to do that every single day of the week. So sometimes you get fucking unlucky with this shit. And I'll tell you what, Manly, they showed up, and I'm kind of kicking myself because I said to myself, look, once Tommy Turbo's back, Jake Trbojevic's back from Origin, Cherry Evans is back healthy. This Manly side is a side that I want to bet on. But the line got up to 6.5, and I was like, fuck me. I just have to take that with the Dragons because obviously 6 is one of the most key numbers in the NRL. And I thought, look, Dragons have got their first win in 6 games. They should show up here. But of course they don't. They did at the start. They scored the first 8 points. Then Cameron McInnes goes down, and they didn't score another point for the next 70 minutes, and just got trampled. So that really was the turning point when McInnes went off at 8-0, and then they conceded 34 points in a row. So very disappointing effort from the Dragons. But I guess I'll say it again, that this Manly side is a side that I want to bet on for the rest of the season, that's for sure, because the first half of the season, they've been injured. Everyone's been injured. Cherry's been out for a little while. Tommy Turbo's obviously been out, and they've had injuries all over the park. So their stats will be a little bit suppressed. But as the season goes on, I'm certainly looking to bet on this Manly side rather than against them. That will do it. That is it. That will wrap it for the round 14 recap. I can't see. I guess I'll decide if I'm going to do a Friday night pod for Origin. I think it probably will work out better doing a Friday night pod rather than a Saturday morning pod, just because I can give out, I guess, some players on the pod on Friday, and then I can have a proper look on Saturday morning for all the value players, first try scorers, that kind of stuff. So that's probably what I'll do. So at this point, we'll look at doing 6 o'clock on Friday for the Origin preview, and then obviously Origin best bets released in the pod on Saturday morning. Don't really know who I'm going to be leaning towards as of yet. I guess I'll wait to see the team list, but it seems like I had a few comments flowing through that like Latrell has not been picked and that kind of stuff. So all this stuff matters, definitely. You can't be betting on Origin without knowing the teams, that's for sure, unless you hear before everyone else does. I'll have a look into the team list, and I'll probably do a 6 p.m. pod on Friday. If anything changes, I'll certainly let you guys know in the group. Likewise, get in the group. There's a link in the description to the vid, and get in the Tripod app. That's where all the tips will be released. Any other questions? If you need a new bookie, whatever, certainly feel free to hit us up in the Tripod app. But otherwise, I will catch you guys at 6 p.m. on Friday for a State of Origin 2 preview, unless I let you know otherwise. Thanks for watching.